So M. Night Shyamalan has given us the best twist yet, and that's making us think that he can still make a pretty damn good movie. He's nah. So Glass is the sequel to 2016 Split, which is supposedly part of the M. Night Shyamalan cinematic universe, which is comprised of 3 movies, which is Unbreakable, Split, and now Glass. So Glass is supposed to be the wrap-up to the superhero trilogy that M. Night created. While Unbreakable and Split were definitely good movies in their own way, unfortunately Glass doesn't quite wrap up the story in a way that is I would say satisfying. So all 3 main characters return in this film. We have David Dunn from Unbreakable, played by Bruce Willis. We have James McAvoy from Split, and of course Mr. Glass, played by Samuel L. Jackson. So even though it's nice that you see everything come together, the problem is it doesn't feel cohesive, it doesn't feel really well thought out. Like, I would say the pace of this movie is something that leaves a lot to be desired. There's some really slow parts, and parts where I feel like it could have picked up a little bit faster or just been illustrated in a more interesting way. And then towards the end, it feels like there's just a lot happens in very short time compared to, like, you know, the first and second acts of the movie compared to the third one. Like, in the third act, I felt like a lot happened, while in the first and second, it was a very slow build-up that I think could have been a bit more, you know, distributed or like evened out. In terms of performances, Bruce Willis is nothing special really. It feels like he stopped trying to act. Sarah Paulson doesn't really do much, but I give her the benefit of the doubt of having like a really poor script to work with. But honestly, the highlight here is really James McAvoy and his portrayal of Kevin Wendell Crumb. He's switching between characters just like that, and it's really amazing to see him play a different personality just by, you know, the way he moves or like his expression or the way he changes the tone of his voice. So James McAvoy definitely gives the best performance in this film. But to contrast that, I would say there's some unnecessary characters in this movie, like Anya Taylor-Joy, who played the girl that was captured in Split. She didn't feel like she had a lot to do with this movie apart from, you know, being in the previous movie, so they had to bring her over to this one. She didn't, like, her character just didn't do much, and the way the movie portrays it, it didn't seem like she needed to be there. And you have David Dunn's son, who is played by the same kid who played the son back in Unbreakable. But anyway, he was also kind of like, didn't feel like he had a lot to do. So my main problem is actually how the story ends. Because throughout this movie, I feel like there's a lot of cool and interesting aspects, but the way everything came together at the end was just a little bit disappointing. Now, I'm not gonna go into spoiler territory, but I really felt like M. Night didn't know how to end his film and end the trilogy properly. In a way, it does make sense how everything resolves in the end, but it's just not satisfying. And it didn't feel like he thought this out like over the course of 3 movies. And it's disappointing because the trilogy does do a very interesting take on the whole comic book superhero, supervillain kind of dynamic, and tells the story in an interesting way with some really interesting plot points in between. But just as a whole, the execution feels kind of sloppy and a little bit messy. So I guess overall, Glass isn't bad, but it's not great either. Like, Split is probably my favorite out of the whole trilogy. So I would say Glass is only worth watching if you've seen the first 2 movies, you enjoy them, and you're curious to see how it ends. But as a standalone film, if you didn't really enjoy Unbreakable or Split that much, Glass might be really disappointing to you, and you might even find it like a little bit boring. But yeah, those are my thoughts on Glass. If you've seen the movie, I would like to know what you guys think in the comments below. Did you like the ending? Did you like how the trilogy concluded? So yeah, let me know, and I'll see you guys next time.